After you study this module, you will be able to first know the concept of group dynamics, second know the history of the concept, third understand the core values, fourth know about designing and managing groups, fifth understand inter and intra-group dynamics, and sixth know about team development. We shall commence this by discussing about group dynamics. Group dynamics is a system of behaviors and psychological processes occurring within a social group, intragroup dynamics, or between social groups, intergroup dynamics. The study of group dynamics can be useful in understanding decision-making behavior, tracking the spread of diseases in society, creating effective therapy techniques, and following the emergence and popularity of new ideas and technologies. Group dynamics are at the core of understanding racism, sexism, and other forms of social prejudice and discrimination. These applications of the field are studied in psychology, sociology, anthropology, political science, epidemiology, education, social work, business, and communication studies. There are three main things that can affect the cohesion. That is the act of working together well of the team. They are team factors, environmental factors, personal factors, and leadership factors. All of these factors affect on how well a team will work together. Now we shall know about the history of group dynamics. The history of group dynamics or group processes has a consistent underlying premise: the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. A social group is an entity which has qualities that cannot be understood just by studying the individuals that make up the group. In 1924, Gestalt psychologist Wertheimer identified this fact, stating there are entities where the behavior of the whole cannot be derived from its individual elements nor from the way these elements fit together. Rather, the opposite is true. The properties of any of the parts are determined by the intrinsic structural laws of the whole. As a field of study, group dynamics has roots in both psychology and sociology. Wilhelm Wundt, credited as the founder of experimental psychology, had a particular interest in the psychology of communities, which he believed possessed phenomena, human language, customs, and religion that could not be described through a study of the individual. On the sociological side, Emily Durkheim 1958-1917, who was influenced by Wundt, also recognized collective phenomena such as public knowledge. Other key theorists include Gustav Le Bon 1941-1931, who believed that crowds possessed a rational unconscious with primitive, aggressive, and antisocial instincts, and William McDougall, psychologist, who believed in a group mind, which had a distinct existence born from the interaction of individuals. Ultimately, it was social psychologist Kurt Lewin 1890-1947 who coined the term group dynamics to describe the positive and negative forces within groups of people. In 1945, he established the Group Dynamics Research Center at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the first institute devoted explicitly to the study of group dynamics. Throughout his career, Lewin was focused on how the study of group dynamics could be applied to real-world social issues. An increasing amount of research has applied evolutionary psychology principles to group dynamics. Humans are argued to have evolved in an increasingly complicated social environment and to have many adaptations concerned with group dynamics. Examples include mechanisms for dealing with status, reciprocity, identifying cheaters, ostracism, altruism, group decision, leadership and intergroup relations. Now moving on to designing and managing groups. Richard Hackman developed a synthetic research-based model for designing and managing work groups. Hackman suggested that groups are successful when they satisfy internal and external clients, develop capabilities to perform in the future, and when members find meaning and satisfaction in the group. Hackman proposed 5 conditions that increase the chance that groups will be successful. These include: first, being a real team, which results from having a shared task, clear boundaries which clarify who is inside or outside of the group, and stability in group membership. Second, compelling direction, which results from a clear, challenging and consequential goal. Third, enabling structure, which results from having tasks which have variety, a group size that is not too large, talented group members who have at least moderate social skill and strong norms that specify appropriate behavior. Fourth, supportive context that occurs in groups nested in larger groups, example companies. In companies, supportive context involves A. Reward systems that reward performance and cooperation. For example, group-based rewards linked to group performance. B. An educational system that develops member skills. C. An information and material system that provides the needed information and raw materials, for example, computers. Fifth, expert coaching, which occurs on the rare occasions when group members feel they need help with tasks or interpersonal issues. Hackman emphasizes that many team leaders are overbearing and undermine group effectiveness. Let us discuss the intragroup dynamics. Intragroup dynamics, also referred to as in-group, within-group or commonly just group dynamics, are the underlying processes that give rise to a set of norms, roles, relations and common goals that characterize a particular social group. Examples of group include religious, political, military and environmental groups, sport teams, work groups and therapy groups. Amongst the members of a group, there is a state of interdependence through which the behaviors, attitudes, opinions and experiences of each member are collectively influenced by the other group members. In many fields of research, there is an interest in understanding how group dynamics influence individual behavior, attitudes and opinions. The dynamics of a particular group depend on how one defines the boundaries of the group. Often, there are distinct subgroups within a more broadly defined group. For example, one could define US residents, Americans as a group, but could also define a more specific set of US residents, for example, Americans in the South. For each of these groups, there are distinct dynamics that can be discussed. Notably, on this very broad level, the study of group dynamics is similar to the study of culture. For example, there are group dynamics in the US South that sustain a culture of honor, which is associated with norms of toughness, honor-related violence and self-defense. We shall now discuss the group formation. Group formation starts with the psychological bond between individuals. The social cohesion approach suggests that group formation comes out of bonds of interpersonal. In contrast, the social identity approach suggests that a group starts when a collection of individuals perceive that they share some social category: smokers, nurses, students, hockey players, and that interpersonal attraction only secondarily enhances the connection between individuals. Additionally, from the social identity approach, group formation involves both identifying with some individuals and explicitly not identifying with others. So to say, a level of psychological distinctiveness is necessary for group formation. Through interaction, individuals begin to develop group norms, roles and attitude which define the group and are internalized to influence behavior. Emergent groups arise from a relatively spontaneous process of group formation. For example, in response to a natural disaster, an emergent response group may form. These groups are characterized as having no pre-existing structure. For example, group membership, allocated roles or prior experience working together. Yet, these groups still express high levels of interdependence and coordinate knowledge, resources and tasks. Let us now discuss the intergroup dynamics. Intergroup dynamics refers to the behavioral and psychological relationship between two or more groups. These includes perceptions, attitudes, opinion and behavior towards one's own group as well as those towards another group. In some cases, intergroup dynamics is pro-social, positive and beneficial. For example, when multiple research teams work together to accomplish a task or goal. In other cases, intergroup dynamics can create conflict. For example, Fisher and Foley found initially positive dynamics between a clinical institution and its external authorities dramatically changed to a hot and intractable conflict when authorities interfered with its embedded clinical model. Similarly, underlying the 1999 Columbine High School shooting in Littleton, Colorado, United States, intergroup dynamics played a significant role in Eric Harris and Dylan Kelly-Bolt's decision to kill a teacher and 14 students, including themselves. Now, we shall commence the team development. You can't expect a new team to perform well when it first comes together. The main model. Forming a team takes time and members often go through recognizable stages as they change from being a collection of strangers to a united group with common goals. Bruce Tuckman's forming, storming, norming and performing model describes these stages. When you understand it, you can help your new team become effective more quickly. In this article, we'll look at how you can use this model to build a highly productive team. About the model. Psychologist Bruce Tuckman first come up with the memorable phrase forming, storming, norming and performing in his 1965 article Developmental Sequence in Small Groups. He used it to describe the path that most team follows on their way to high performance. Later, he added a fifth stage, adjoining, which is sometimes known as morning. Let's look at each stage in more detail. Forming. In this stage, most team members are positive and polite. Some are anxious as they haven't fully understood what work the team will do. Others are simply excited about the task ahead. As leader, you play a dominant role at this stage because team members' roles and responsibilities aren't clear. These stages can last for some time as people start to work together and they make an effort to get to know their new colleagues. Next, storming. Next, the team moves into the storming phase where people start to push against the boundaries established in the forming stage. This is the stage where many teams fail. Storming often starts where there is a conflict between team members' natural working styles. People may work in different ways for all sorts of reasons, but if differing working styles cause unforeseen problems, they may become frustrated. Storming can also happen in other situations. For example, team members may challenge your authority or jockey for position as their roles are clarified. Or if you haven't defined clearly how the team will work, people may feel overwhelmed by their workload or they could be uncomfortable with the approach you are using. Some may question the worth of the team's goal and they may resist taking on risk. Team members who stick with the task at hand may experience stress, particularly as they don't have the support of established processes or strong relationships with their colleagues. Next is norming. Gradually, the team moves into the norming stage. This is when people start to resolve their differences, appreciate colleagues' strength and respect your authority as a leader. Now that your team members know one another better, they may socialize together and they are able to ask one another for help and provide constructive feedback. People develop a stronger commitment to the team goal and you start to see good progress towards it. There is often a prolonged overlap between storming and norming, because as new tasks come up, the team may lapse back into behavior from the storming stage. Next is performing. The team reaches the performing stage when hard work leads without friction to the achievement of the team's goal. The structures and processes that you have set up support this well. As leader, you can delegate much of your work and you can concentrate on developing team members. It feels easy to be a part of the team at this stage and people who join or leave won't disrupt performance. Next is adjourning. Many teams will reach this stage eventually. For example, project teams exit for only a fixed period and even permanent teams may be disbanded through organizational restructuring. Team members who like routine or who have developed close working relationships with colleagues may find this stage difficult, particularly if their future now looks uncertain. Now, we shall commence the 5 stages of team development. It takes time and effort, but it is worth working through the 5 stages of team development. Bruce Tuckman deemed the 4 main stages of team development in order as forming, storming, norming and performing. Later, as self-managed teams become common in business, he added a 5th stage of adjourning, transforming. Thomas Quick called the 5 stages for teams: searching, defining, identifying, processing and assimilating, reforming. Whatever term is used for the stages, teams will go through all 5 during their developmental and working processes. Stage 1. The first stage is when the team is formed and members meet. They learn what the team opportunities and challenge will be. Individual members may be confused about their role or not understand the need for the team. Members will agree on goals and assign actions for work, often working independently. Ground rules or team guidelines are established. At the start, the team leader may be a member of the group, a supervisor, a manager or a consultant who will facilitate the team building process. Leadership will help the team to define their processes. At this stage, the leader needs to be directive and understand the requirements for team training to move through each stage. Stage 2. During the second stage, individual expression of idea occurs and there is open conflict between members. Members tend to focus on details rather than the issues and compete for influence. Low trust among team members is an evident indicator of this stage. The team needs to select their desired leadership style and decision methodology. The team leader can help by stressing tolerance and patience between members. The leader should guide the team process towards clear goals, defined roles, acceptable team behavior and a mutual feedback process for team communication. Stage 3. In the third stage, the team develops work habits that support group rules and values. They use established tools and methods, exhibit good behaviors, mutual trust, motivation and open communication increase. Positive teamwork and group focus are apparent. The team relationships grow and individual characteristics are understood and appropriately utilized. The team leader continues to encourage participation and professionalism among the team members. Stage 4. The fourth stage shows high levels of loyalty, participation, motivation and group decision making. Knowledge sharing, cross-training and interdependence increases. Team is self-directing in development of plans and strategy to meet their goals and carry out work. Personal growth and sharing is encouraged throughout membership. The leader becomes a facilitator, aiding the team in communication processes and helping if they revert to a prior stage. Stage 5. For project teams, temporary committee or task forces coming to an end, there will be a finalizing stage as they celebrate and recognize group achievement. Then some mourning over the dissolving of the team relationship and begin planning for the change in individual work requirements. During this stage, leadership needs to emphasize organization gratitude and both team and individual recognition. For continuous work teams, there may be a higher performance level as they develop and transform as individuals and reform into revised teams. It is important to note that continuous work teams may revert to prior stages when new people are added to the team. Time and effort are required to move through the various team development stages. Every team will go through all the stages. However, the timeline of each stage may be different for each team depending on the individual members and their skill levels, the work the team is expected to accomplish and team leadership during each stage. Let us now summarize what we have learned in this module. Group dynamics is a system of behaviors and psychological processes occurring within a social group. Intragroup dynamics are between social groups, intergroup dynamics. The study of group dynamics can be useful in understanding decision-making behavior, tracking the spread of diseases in society, creating effective therapy techniques, and following the emergence and popularity of new ideas and technologies. The history of group dynamics in 1924, Gestalt psychologist Wertheimer identified this fact, stating there are entities where the behavior of the whole cannot be derived from its individual elements nor from the way these elements fit together. Rather, the opposite is true. The properties of any of the parts are determined by the intrinsic structural laws of the whole. Group formation starts with the psychological bond between individuals. The social cohesion approach suggests that group formation comes out of bonds of interpersonal. Intergroup dynamics refers to the behavioral and psychological relationship between two or more groups. These includes perceptions, attitudes, opinions and behaviors towards one's own group as well as those towards another group. Thank you.